laughing and drunk. She told her friends that she could do better than me and even called me inferior. She didn't know that I was listening from the other room. I quietly picked up the Christmas gift I had planned to give her and left without saying a word. The next day, one of her friends messaged me and said, "What have you done?" She has been crying ever since. I'm 28, a software developer, and I thought I had finally found someone who understood me. Her name was Leah, and we'd been together for 2 years. 2 years of what I believed was mutual respect, shared dreams, and genuine connection. I met Leah at a tech conference in Austin. She was working in marketing for a startup, ambitious and magnetic in a way that drew people to her. I'm quieter, more analytical, the kind of person who prefers solving problems to being the center of attention. She used to say that's what she loved about me, that I was steady and real in a world full of posturing. Our relationship wasn't perfect. Over the past 6 months, I'd noticed small shifts. She'd started making offhand comments about my career trajectory, how some of her friends' partners were moving into management or starting their own companies. I was content where I was. Good salary, interesting work, solid team. But Leah seemed to be measuring me against some invisible standard I hadn't agreed to. Still, I loved her. I'd spent weeks searching for the perfect Christmas gift, a vintage camera she'd mentioned once casually while we were browsing an antique shop. She'd picked it up, ran her fingers over the lens, and said it reminded her of her grandfather. I found the exact model online, paid more than I probably should have, and had it restored by a specialist. The night before Christmas Eve, Leah hosted a small gathering at our apartment. Just 4 of her friends from work, Paige, Kendall, Britt, and Simone. I'd ordered food, set up drinks, made sure everything was ready. Around 10 o'clock, I excused myself to finish some work in the bedroom. A client had a critical bug that needed addressing before the holiday shutdown. I was running through code when I heard the laughter from the living room get louder. They'd been drinking steadily for hours. I didn't think much of it. Hila's friends were always loud when they got together. But then I heard my name. I mean, he's nice and all. Hila's voice carried through the thin walls, but sometimes I wonder if I settled. I froze, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. Paige laughed. "Girl, you did not just say that. I'm serious." Hila's words were slurred, but clear enough. Like, he's comfortable, stable. But is that enough? Britt's boyfriend just bought her that car. Kendall's fiancé is opening his own firm. What's Jacob doing? The same thing he was doing when we met. My stomach dropped. Simone's voice was cautious. "Hila, you're drunk." "Maybe." "No. I'm honest when I'm drunk." Hila interrupted. "I could do better. I know I could. He's inferior." God, that sounds awful. But it's true. He doesn't push himself. Doesn't want more. Just sits there in his little developer bubble, perfectly happy being mediocre. The room went quiet for a moment. Then Kendall spoke up. "That's pretty harsh." "It's honest," Leah said. "You guys know what I mean." "You've thought it too." I sat there staring at my laptop screen without seeing it. My hands were shaking. 2 years. 2 years of planning a future with someone who thought I was inferior, who measured me against her friends' partners, and found me lacking, who used the word settled. I saved my work, closed the laptop, and stood up. My movements felt mechanical, disconnected. I walked to the closet where I'd hidden the wrapped camera on the top shelf. The silver paper caught the light. The red ribbon I tied carefully that morning. I picked it up and held it for a moment. Then I grabbed my coat, my keys, and my wallet. The living room was a blur of faces as I walked through. Leah looked up mid-laugh. Her cheeks flushed. "Jacob, where are you going?" I didn't answer. Didn't look at her. Just kept walking to the door. "Jake, it's almost midnight. What's wrong?" I opened the door and stepped into the cold December air. Behind me, I heard Paige say something. Chair scraping, but I was already down the stairs getting into my car, setting the wrapped gift on the passenger seat. I drove to my brother's place across town. Caleb opened the door in his pajamas, took one look at my face, and stepped aside without a word. I slept on his couch that night with the camera still wrapped beside me. The next morning, I woke up to 17 missed calls and 32 texts from Leah. I ignored them all. Around noon, my phone buzzed with a message from Kendall. "Jacob, I don't know what happened, but Hila's been crying since you left. She won't tell us what's wrong. She just keeps saying she ruined everything." "What did you do?" I stared at that message for a long time. What did I do? I read it again, feeling something cold settle in my chest. I typed back. "I didn't do anything. I just left." Kendall responded immediately. "She's devastated. She thinks you're breaking up with her." "Are you?" I didn't answer. By evening, Leah showed up at Caleb's apartment. I don't know how she figured out I was there. Maybe she'd call my family. My brother answered the door and I heard her voice desperate and raw. "Is he here? Please, I need to talk to him." Caleb glanced back at me. I shook my head. "He doesn't want to see you right now," Caleb said, his voice gentle but firm. "Jake," Lala called past him. "Jake, please. I don't understand what I did." That's what broke something in me. She genuinely didn't know. Didn't remember. I walked to the door and Caleb stepped aside. Hila's eyes were swollen, her makeup smeared. She looked smaller somehow, wrapped in the oversized coat I'd bought her last winter. Thank God, Jake. What's going on? You just left. You won't answer my calls. Did something happen? You don't remember last night? My voice came out flat. She blinked, confused. We were just having drinks. You went to work on something, then you came out and left without saying anything. I've been losing my mind trying to figure out. You told your friends I was inferior. The color drained from her face. You said you settled for me, that you could do better, that I was mediocre, and you wondered if being comfortable was enough. I kept my voice level, watching her expression crumble. You said all of this while I was in the next room. Yila. Her hand went to her mouth. Oh my God. I heard every word. Jake, I was drunk. I didn't mean. That's the thing about being drunk. I interrupted. It doesn't make you a different person. It just removes the filter. You meant it. You just never intended for me to hear it. Tears were streaming down her face now. I don't think you're inferior. I don't. I was just my friends were talking about their relationships and I got caught up and I said stupid things to sound. I don't know. God, I'm so sorry. Sorry you said it or sorry I heard it. She flinched like I'd slapped her. Both. Neither. I don't know. Jake, please don't do this. We can talk about it. I'll do anything. I felt tired suddenly. Bone deep tired. You compared me to your friends' boyfriends like I was a car you weren't sure you wanted to trade in. You used the word settled. Do you understand what that means? For 2 years, I thought we were building something together. But you've been keeping score, measuring me against people I don't even know. I wasn't. I promise I wasn't. It was just drunken, the kind of thing people say when they're trying to fit in with a conversation. Her voice was desperate. You know me. You know I love you. Do you? The question hung in the cold air between us. Leia opened her mouth, closed it, tears falling harder. I need you to leave, I said quietly. I need time to think. How much time? I don't know. She stood there for a moment longer, then nodded and turned away. I watched her walk to her car, watched her sit behind the wheel with her head in her hands. Caleb put a hand on my shoulder, and I stepped back inside. Update 1. 3 days passed. It was Christmas Eve and I was still at Caleb's place. My phone was full of messages from Leia, from her friends, from my own mother, who Leia had apparently called, crying. Everyone wanted me to talk to her to give her a chance to explain. But what was there to explain? I kept replaying that night in my head, hearing her voice saying those words with such casual certainty, like it was an obvious truth she'd been thinking for a while. On Christmas morning, Caleb handed me coffee and sat down across from me. You planning to stay in limbo forever? I'm not in limbo. I know what I'm doing, which is I didn't answer. He sighed. Look, I'm not going to tell you to forgive her. What she said was shitty, but you've been together 2 years, Jake. Don't you owe it to yourself to at least have a real conversation about it? I tried. She made excuses. She panicked. You ambushed her with it at my door. He held up a hand before I could argue. I'm not saying you were wrong to do that, but maybe she needs time to process too, to really think about what she said and why she said it. I stared into my coffee. The wrapped camera was still sitting on Caleb's bookshelf, untouched. That afternoon, I finally texted Il. We need to talk. Really talk. Not apologies or excuses. I need to understand what you actually think of me in this relationship. She responded in seconds. Yes, anything. When? Tonight, 7. The coffee shop on Brennan Street. I arrived early and sat in the back corner. Leia walked in at exactly 7 o'clock, looking like she hadn't slept in days. She sat down across from me, hands folded on the table, waiting. Tell me the truth, I said. Not what you think I want to hear, the actual truth. Do you think I'm inferior? She took a shaky breath. No, I don't, but I understand why you'd think I do after what I said. Then why did you say it? Because she paused, struggling. Because my friends were talking about these big flashy things their partners do. Proposals at expensive restaurants, surprise trips to Europe, these grand gestures, and I got insecure. I started thinking about how we're not like that. You're not like that. And instead of recognizing that as a difference, I framed it as a deficit. So, you do think less of me? No, I think I was measuring our relationship against a standard that doesn't matter to me when I'm sober. She met my eyes. Jake, I don't want grand gestures. I don't want someone who's constantly chasing the next promotion or starting a company. That's not my life. But when I'm around my friends, I feel this pressure to have that life, to want that life. And I said things that betrayed everything I actually value, which is what you. The way you actually listen when I talk. The way you remember small things. The way you're content without needing constant validation or status. I called it mediocrity, but it's not. It's maturity. It's knowing what actually matters. I wanted to believe her. Part of me did. But another part couldn't unhear her calling me inferior. Couldn't unknow that she'd said it with such ease. "I bought you something for Christmas," I said. "I spent weeks finding it. It was supposed to be special." Her eyes filled with tears again. "Jake, but here's the thing. I picked that gift because I pay attention. Because I remember that random afternoon when you picked up a camera and smiled. Because I care about making you happy in ways that aren't about money or status. And none of that mattered when you were talking to your friends. I was just the guy who wasn't as impressive as everyone else's boyfriend." "I know," she whispered. "I know I hurt you. I know I said unforgivable things. Are they unforgivable?" She looked at me. "Really?" "Looked at me. I don't know. That's up to you. But I need you to know that I heard what you said at Caleb's door about drunk words being honest. And I've spent 3 days thinking about whether that's true. About whether I really believe the things I said. And I don't, Jake. I really don't. What I believe is that I'm insecure and scared, and I projected all of that onto you in the worst possible way." We sat in silence for a while. The coffee shop bustled around us, families and couples enjoying the holiday. Finally, I spoke. "I can't just move past this. Even if I believe you're sorry, even if I believe you don't think those things when you're sober, you said them. And I'll always know you're capable of thinking them, even for a moment. So, what are you saying?" "I'm saying I need space. Real space. Not a few days, maybe weeks, maybe longer. I need to figure out if I can trust you again. If I can trust that when things get hard or you're feeling insecure, you won't tear me down and make yourself feel better." Leia nodded slowly, tears streaming down her face. "Okay, however long you need." I stood up. "I hope you figure out what you actually want, not what your friends have. What you want." "I want you," she said quietly. "Then prove it. Not to me, to yourself." I left her there and drove back to Caleb's. The wrap camera sat on the passenger seat. When I got inside, I unwrapped it carefully and held the restored vintage camera in my hands. It was beautiful, exactly what she'd wanted. I took a photo of it and posted it for sale online. It sold within 2 hours. Update 2. 2 weeks into January, I moved back into our apartment. Leia had been staying with Paige. We'd agreed she'd move out by the end of the month, that we'd split things fairly and go our separate ways. The apartment felt different, emptier, even though most of her things were still there. I was packing up the kitchen when my phone rang. It was Simone, one of Eel's friends from that night. "Jacob, do you have a minute?" "Sure. I need to tell you something about that night." She sighed. "Yila didn't start that conversation. Paige did. She was talking about how her boyfriend bought her a new car, making it sound like that's what love looks like. And then she turned to Leia and said, 'What has Jacob done for you lately?' Like it was a challenge." I frowned. "Okay." And Leia tried to deflect at first. "She said you were great, that you'd been planning a special Christmas." But Paige kept pushing, kept comparing, and then Britt and Kendall joined in, and it became this whole toxic thing about measuring relationships by money and status. Simone paused. I'm not excusing what Leia said. She said awful things, but she was being pressured into a conversation she didn't want to have. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I've watched Eel these past 2 weeks and she's destroyed. She knows she messed up. But I also watched her friends corner her into a conversation designed to make her feel bad about her relationship. They do that. They're competitive and toxic, and they've been doing it for years." Leia usually doesn't engage, but that night she was drunk and vulnerable and she caved. I didn't know what to say. "I'm not asking you to take her back," Simone continued. "I'm just saying context matters, and maybe Leia needs to figure out why she surrounds herself with people who make her feel like she has to perform or compete." After we hung up, I sat with that information for a long time. It didn't change what Leia had said, but it added layers to it. She'd been set up to fail that night, pushed into a mindset she might not have arrived at on her own. When Leia came by to pick up more of her things, I asked her about it. "Did Paige start that conversation?" She looked surprised. "Simone told you?" "Yeah." Leia set down the box she was holding. "She did, but that doesn't excuse what I said." I still said it. "No, it doesn't excuse it, but it explains it." "I've been thinking a lot about my friendships," Leia said quietly. "About why I spend time with people who make me feel inadequate, who turn everything into a competition. I think I've been confusing their ambition with my own, trying to want what they want because it seems like I should. And what do you actually want?" She looked at me, and for the first time in weeks, I saw clarity in her eyes. "I want someone who sees me, who pays attention, who doesn't need me to be something I'm not." She swallowed hard. "I wanted you. I still do. But I understand if that's not possible anymore." I didn't answer right away. Instead, I asked, "Are you still friends with Paige?" "No, I'm not friends with any of them anymore." "Why?" "Because Simone was right. They're toxic, and I can't be the person I want to be when I'm around them. I can't value the things I actually value when I'm constantly being told they're not enough." We stood there in the half-packed apartment, and I felt something shift. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But understanding. Leia had been living in 2 worlds. The one she actually wanted and the one her friends told her she should want. And that night, drunk and off guard, She'd let the wrong world speak. I'm not ready to get back together, I said finally, but I'm willing to try coffee again. Maybe once a week. See where things go. Hila's eyes widened. Really? Really? But I need you to figure out who you are without those people in your life. And I need to figure out if I can trust you again. That's fair. That's more than fair. She moved out at the end of January. We had coffee the following week, then again the week after. The conversations were careful at first, both of us navigating new territory, but slowly, incrementally, we started to rebuild something. Not what we had before that was gone, but something more honest, more deliberate. By March, we were dating again officially. It wasn't the same relationship. We were more careful with each other, more aware of the damage words could cause. Leia had started therapy, working through her insecurities and her tendency to seek validation from people who didn't have her best interests at heart. I never bought her the camera. That ship had sailed. But one Saturday in April, we were walking through a flea market and she stopped at a booth selling vintage photographs. She picked one up, a black and white shot of a couple dancing in the rain, and smiled. "This is beautiful," she said. I bought it for her, not because she expected it or because I was trying to prove something, but because it mattered to her and that mattered to me. That night, she hung it in her new apartment and we sat on her couch drinking wine. "Thank you for giving me another chance," she said. "You gave yourself another chance," I replied. "I just decided to be there for it." She leaned her head on my shoulder, and for the first time in months, it felt right. Not perfect, not healed, but right. We're still together now, almost a year after that Christmas Eve. We're better than we were, stronger in ways that matter. She knows what I overheard will always be there, a scar on what we have. And I know her insecurities will always exist, something she'll have to consciously work against. But we're trying, and sometimes that's enough.